AI is everywhere, but for many business leaders, it's still unclear how to move from interest to implementation. What do we automate first? How do we ensure our systems are ready? How do we apply AI in a way that's grounded in strategy, not just trends? To help us unpack that, I'm joined by Shadi Yazdan, a four times founder with two exits and over 15 years of experience guiding growth stage companies through critical inflection points. She's the former founder of an AI company that has built a real time, privacy first predictive algorithm that was ahead of its time. And today, she advises small and medium sized businesses on how to integrate AI with clarity, alignment, and measurable ROI. Shadi, welcome to Just Curious.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to explore how you help leaders unlock hidden growth through AI powered operations. But first, tell me a little bit about SY strategy and your focus on AI.
Love to. Thank you. So, as you mentioned, and I will just piggyback on that, my work with AI really began as a founder of an AI company that built a proprietary algorithm capable of predicting online customer behavior in real time. And we were able to achieve this without collecting any personal data or relying on any historical patterns. It was a privacy first, as you mentioned, forward looking approach that still is unheard of today. And this was back in 2020. Now I bring that experience in addition to all the businesses I've built so far into my work with growth stage businesses, helping them move beyond what we see right now in the market, the AI noise, right? And then the ever-changing tools and trends. I focus really on aligning that AI with the core business goals, ensuring that it's not just innovative, but strategic, practical, and really ROI driven. So always start with a strategy and then talk about the AI. That is my motto. So my role really is often to help business owners and executives cut through this hype and really get clear on where AI for them could actually add value and design a roadmap that's going to support their sustainable growth.
Awesome. And we're going to walk through what that looks like with an example, but maybe we can start with a misconception. Many leaders think AI is just about marketing automation or content creation. You think this view is limited. Tell us, what business problems do you help solve?
Good question, and thank you for asking this. I really, when I look at the growth stage businesses, I focus on four key challenges that they often face. Number one, they're curious about AI, but they're just not sure where to start or how to apply it strategically. And they're running around trying one tool after another, thinking that it's going to answer all of their prayers and solve all of their problems. Second, the businesses I work with oftentimes have hit a growth plateau, and what used to work in the past easily no longer is working. And they need a new approach to growing and then eventually scaling. Third, they're facing a high stake decision and they really want a trusted partner, someone who's been there before, to bring that clarity and structure to help them get to that next stage. And then finally, they're dealing with operational bottlenecks, whether it's scaling their team, process, or making sure that the business is built for sustainable growth. So those are the four key areas that I'm helping day in and day out with a lot of the growth stage businesses to help them solve.
And what inspired you to focus on this?
I have to say, it really comes down to the journey I've lived firsthand. When you build businesses with where majority of them have failed and then a few of them end up going somewhere. And then you look at others that have actually scaled their company successfully. You start to see a little theme. You start to see not just the breadcrumbs, but you start to see the picture that these breadcrumbs are creating. And through it all, I always begin to see clear patterns around what actually moves a business forward and what's really holding them back. And sometimes it's obvious, but in most cases, it's not. And one of the biggest drivers I'm seeing of growth for all businesses that is often not discussed, especially in the business world, is mindset. And that belief system of the business owner or the executive, the person that's driving the ship. And that's often what I see is the hidden lever that no one talks about, as I mentioned, but also as important as operations, as important as your finances and everything else that you need to get your business to that level. If you do not have that belief system and that drive and motivation that you're going to be the one to take this business to that next level it needs to go, then you are not going to do it. It's just not going to work no matter what. And I see right now, which is really frustrating, how many business owners are chasing AI and thinking that it's a magic wand and leave it and forget it. And wow, great things are going to happen. But really, the truth is AI will only amplify what already exists. And I got to tell you, a lot of businesses are hanging on for dear life. And if your systems aren't strong, AI is going to showcase that. If you have strong systems, then AI is going to make them stronger. If things are broken and your business, what I call, I don't want to get too violent, but if your business is bleeding, AI will actually force the business to fail, eat faster, bleed faster, and eventually fail. That's why I really focus on helping businesses build the right foundations and the systems, strategy that they need, and also that fitness so that any technology, whether it's AI or something else, becomes a tool that really truly helps the business move forward and leads to sustainable growth.
Awesome. And I'd love to walk through an example of that approach and also the role that AI played in this example. Tell us about a time a client came to you with a problem. Who was the client? What was the problem? And how did you help them solve it?
Yeah. So I recently concluded a work with a 8-year-old B2B professional service company that was generating about $20 million in annual revenue. If you were to look at the profile of this company, they really looked successful and they looked like they were doing really well, but they had hit a growth plateau. And they had this great reputation. They had a talented team. They had loyal clients, but scaling operation without burning out leadership was becoming absolutely impossible. So this company knew that AI could potentially help, but they felt overwhelmed by all the options that were out there. And to be honest, they also were burned by many AI consultants that they had brought on to help them. But really what ended up happening was that a particular tool was being pushed on them that didn't really help the company. So you can imagine they were very cautious when they engaged with me, completely understandable. And they only decided to engage with me because their CFO kept raving about me over and over again. It actually took them a number of months for them to even get on an introduction call with me. But the CFO kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And they were concerned. Like the first thing that they said in that intro call, I still remember, was that they did not want to waste any time, any money, or technology that wasn't going to actually move the needle forward. Like they were very adamant about that. And here, what was at stake for them was, they're hitting a ceiling. They're unable to scale beyond their current success. They were missing market opportunities and they were looking to expand outside of the US, and competitors were starting to catch up to them. And there were a lot of inefficiency that was costing them roughly around $300,000 a year just from operational drag and misaligned process.
So you've got a situation that from the outside looks like they're doing well.
Yes.
Internally, they aren't growing. They are wasting money, or their operations aren't as efficient as they could be. Because of those two things, they're not capitalizing on the opportunities in front of them. How do you start?
Exactly. That's the question here. How do you start with this company? Well, I knew as I was talking to the leadership team, and oftentimes what I do is I do a diagnostic assessment on the business just to see where they're at and where they plan to go, and does it really align with what they're looking to achieve? And I knew right away that this wasn't just about plug in some automation tool or install a chatbot and call it a day. The real challenge here was much deeper. It was a strategy issue, capacity issue, clarity, and of course, mindset that always plays a huge factor. And without addressing these foundational issues, I knew that even talking about AI would only add more complexity and confusion. Like that's not what they needed at that time. So the root cause, the diagnosis that I did, the root cause really showcased that the business needed the core foundations that it didn't have in place, which is really odd for a company that was doing so well, on paper, that they didn't have those foundational sets. And what most businesses fail to recognize is that beyond the funding, beyond the brilliant product or any traditional business, the leadership is the one that's really driving that ship forward. And if the leadership isn't aligned with what the customers want and what the stakeholders want and the rest of the team, then the business isn't going to go forward. So the way I went about approaching to solve this issue is I walked the CEO and his COO through my proprietary process, which I've named the Strategic Growth Reset, which really combines strategic business coaching with targeted AI advisory. So as I mentioned already, number one, what is that root cause of the issue? So we do a root cause diagnosis, which really revealed the real bottlenecks. And we found that they weren't even tech related. They had a lot to do with decision-making overload, misaligned roles, and inefficient client delivery system. So again, here's an example of a client that came to me thinking AI is the answer, but really through this diagnostic assessment, it was far beyond that. And then step two, clarifying and aligning. So before we even touch AI or talk about AI, we address their fundamental issues. I work with the business owner to uncover their true vision, goal, anything that I could see was a mindset challenge that they didn't even realize was holding them back. And then developing with the team a strategic roadmap with clarity in place. We crafted a strategic plan grounded in the company's vision and goals. And then from there, we identified 2 high impact workflows that were prime candidates for AI optimization. But we didn't stop at just that. We took a step further, looked even deeper to see where else the company was bleeding. And with the team, we were able to integrate low-code AI tools for things like internal workflow automation, document processing, meeting summaries, and building a knowledge base. So again, you see, we started very simple, just based on where the bleeding was at. What is the cause of the bleeding and how do we make sure that it stops and doesn't start back up again?
How long did that process take between phase one, that diagnostic assessment, and then the identification of those workflows that can be enhanced by AI and the building of the kind of low code solutions to those problems? How long did that process take?
Because this team had their own internal team in place that were doing a lot of the tech work and operations and so forth, it took them about 3 months. We were able to get them up and going within 3 months because that team was already in place. And oftentimes when I work with businesses, I always assess to see, do you have the team in place if we need to implement something to help you move quickly? Do you have the right data set? And is it clean data set that we can feed into the AI models to get the predictions if that's what we need to do? And do you have the right infrastructure in place for us to be able to move you forward? And if the business doesn't have those foundations, we have to put those foundations in place and help them with that before we can get to that next step. And some businesses, it's not a massive AI integration, so it doesn't require that massive team.
Maybe, and I really want to hear about these use cases and what you ultimately build for this professional services company. But taking a step back, if someone doesn't have clean data and they don't have the kind of architecture in place, what is your process to help them, one, evaluate whether their data is ready, two, ready it, and then I guess three, related, put in place the architecture that allows them to build like scalable solutions?
So first and foremost, with any business I work with, I always have them do a quick, free, no commitment, like they don't have to commit in any way. I call it AI readiness assessment. It gives them a quick way to learn where they're at and what gaps they need to fill. And then we work through those gaps. That's how we always start. And then there's always a quick little questionnaire that they can go through with whether it's the business owner and one or two other people on their team, to make sure that they have all the structures that they need to have in place before we even start to work. And sometimes they take that and they use that to help them move their business forward, and have me there as the advisor to provide them with the advice that they need and the consultancy to help them get to that next stage that they want for themselves. Yeah.
Sure. And then so let's go back to the B2B professional services client. You'd done the assessment, you'd helped them like design a strategy and a roadmap. You'd identified use cases. How did you identify those use cases?
Do you mean the use cases for?
Yeah.
So this is still a huge challenge in the AI world because we don't have a lot of the use cases that we can bring in with clients. So the use cases weren't necessarily based on AI per se. It was more based on, this is where your business is struggling with. Here is how we're going to help you through this struggle until the business is prime and ready for us to now introduce at least one AI tool. And in their case, let's start with automation, something very simple, and see how the business functions. And then do we need to bring in another tool? And then do we need to bring another tool? And so on and so on. So it's a very strategic approach that there's no one size fits all, really depends on the particular business and what they can handle and what they can implement at what time, when, and so forth. And the testing is so important to make sure that not too much is being added to the company, because that's just going to cause a lot of havoc for them and they won't be able to move forward.
In terms of the solutions you built, the no-code solutions, what tools did you use?
So this is a question that always, I have to say, makes me uncomfortable because I don't like to talk about tools. To be absolutely frank with you, we're still in the early stages of AI, and a lot of the tools out there have amazing PR and marketing behind them, but when you look under the hood, they really don't do what they say they do. So oftentimes what I do with businesses, again, the work is very much centered around that strategy and operational need. So for this one company, some of the tools that made the most sense, and they're so basic to use, was number one, we started experimenting with ChatGPT Enterprise, because for them, for knowledge management and SOP building, by that I mean transform scattered processes and trial knowledges into clear, repeatable systems that were documented and accessible to everyone, was the easiest thing to do. And so this helped them reduce training time, improve consistency, and make delegation much easier. Then we started using Zapier and Notion to auto tag key client insights and streamline knowledge across the team. But very quickly, as we were working through this, we realized Zapier was really not the right tool for the team. They were having a hard time with it. They found it clingy. They didn't really like using it. So we switched to Make. So we started using make.com because it's much easier. It's drag and drop, drag and drop. But this is exactly what I was saying, because you can't use a one size fits all. It really depends on the team, their knowledge, what they're to use versus not. Make.com made their work much easier. And then we started implementing tools like Claude and Perplexity for the training support, extracting insights from massive amounts of content and making it usable for the team. So those were the core tools that we started with. And then we started, again, going back to using make.com to utilize more of their automation process that they needed to have in place.
And at the end of this engagement, what was the outcome?
So the outcome for the team, in terms of, I assume you're asking about metrics and so forth for the team, right? So time saved was huge for them, which is number one, what they were looking for. So the leadership team gained anywhere, I think it was about 10 to 15 hours per week through streamlining internal operations. And then they improved their margin, which was really important for them because they had a number of competitors that were very much, starting to be on par with them. So the client delivery time was cut by 30%, and that drastically improved their profit margin. Then they identified a new service offering on track to generate an additional $500,000 over the next year or two for them. right away as they were doing this work. And then the team really, boosted morale. The team members really felt empowered rather than threatened by AI. Because a lot of companies you go into, regardless of size, you say AI, and the first thing people say is, you want to replace me with some robot.
Yeah.
So this was really great because the team was like, oh wow, this is something I can do. It still needs me because without me, the technology can't do its own work.
And is that because you involved a broader team in this process from the beginning? So those junior or mid-level employees didn't feel threatened by the sort of implementation of a new AI-powered solution because they were part of the process of identifying the problem that needed to be solved, which is their problem?
Yeah, 100% yes. And also shifting the mindset of the leader, believing that they were the ones that had to hold all the information and have all the knowledge and then share with the team. It was teaching the CEO the importance of being vulnerable and saying, hey, I don't know how to use this. I don't know what this is going to lead to. Let's try together. Let's work together. We're all learning as we're going. So Autumn, the one thing that I found really exciting about working with this company was how I started to see a shift in their culture. Their culture became so much of learning, experimenting, and collaborating together without the fear of failure. We try. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. At least we learn that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see this. And this type of language kept coming out over and over again, not just with the team, but also with the CEO, who in the beginning was like, oh my God, if my team doesn't think that I know what I'm doing, then I'm going to be in deep, like they're not going to listen to me.
Yeah.
Whereas it's oftentimes the opposite that's true, right? Like it's that vulnerability that makes you human.
Yeah. Awesome. Who's this approach best for?
Well, a lot of businesses that are, as I said, struggling with the growth and they've plateaued. They're having some sort of a complex business challenge, not sure how to approach it. They're thinking about utilizing the power of AI, but not sure where to start. They're overwhelmed and frustrated with all the tools that are being pushed down their throat every day. It feels like in the AI world, there's something new. So those are the type of businesses I love to work with. Mostly they're still owned by the original person that started the business. The CEO is driving the ship forward with a COO. And I oftentimes come in and then help them with the areas that they're struggling with most.
And size-wise, you mentioned this company was $20 million.
Yeah.
What's the range
So
of revenue sizes that you focus on?
Yeah, so I work with businesses that are earning anywhere between minimum 3 million to 50 million in annual revenue. They've been around for 5 years or more. And as I said, they're on that growth and scaling trajectory.
Any particular sectors?
Professional services, agencies, consulting with knowledge work type organizations, a lot of health tech and fintech companies as well, and SaaS. Those are the ones that are the best for me to work with.
Awesome.
But I never say no to anyone that's outside of this arena. I have to say, I had one company that was in construction that I was like, what? I have no background in construction that I worked with that were building modular homes in the US that needed to automize and ensure that AI could take a lot of the workload for them as they were building the homes in the factory. So that was
Interesting.
fun.
And across all those industries and company sizes, what are the biggest lessons that listeners can take away from all of your work?
Again, another good question. Scream this from the top of my lung on LinkedIn whenever I can, however many times I can. And I'm so glad I get to share it here as well. Number one, never, ever, ever start with a tool. Start by understanding your bottlenecks. AI is really just a fuel. It's not the end all or be all, and it still right now requires a lot of manpower. Use AI to build your knowledge base. Don't depend on it, and always double check, because AI is known to hallucinate. So that is provide you with incorrect information. So, and then the other is the mindset alignment really matters. So if leadership is stuck in their old way of thinking and holding information and not sharing it with anyone, and because they're driven by fear, progress will be stunned. It will not get to that next level.
Yeah. In terms of what is exciting you in AI? What are you most excited about, like currently or the next
Yeah.
like 12 to 24 months?
Well, I'm really excited to see where we go with AI. I've seen firsthand the capability of AI, and I don't think we've scratched the surface. I'm also very cautious because I can also see on the other end where AI could lead if we don't have the right ethics, privacy in place for that. I'm really excited to see AI being used in a genuine strategic way where it just helps a business grow and scale faster. I really think in the next 12 to 24 months will be all about improvement, especially with Gen AI and AI making prediction based on it taking a role of a human, believe it or not, and very much based on the information that you feed it, based on what it learns about you, being able to give you that information, which is really the true capability of AI. And companies that are still treating AI as a fad, and that's, just like blockchain was, it's here today, gone tomorrow, they're going to be the ones that are going to suffer. I think anyone and everyone, it would be to their advantage just to start learning and playing. Like play. You don't have to do anything big. Just play around with it. That's all.
Yeah, speaking of starting, for a business that's ready to experiment with AI, what's one workflow or process you'd recommend starting with?
Again, it would depend on what kind of workflow that they want to utilize AI for. So I always say start with my AI readiness assessment to get a quick little glimpse of where you're today and what are the gaps for you. Don't think about the tool. Think about what is it that you're currently doing every day that is taking up the most of your time. Where are you duplicating your efforts? Where are you making decisions without data? What's slowing you down? What is a bandwidth issue? That's your starting point. And then just simply asking yourself, what would happen if this particular thing that I'm doing day in and day out was 80% automated? Like what could that really mean for me? And that in itself makes a huge difference in any business, regardless of where they're at.
Shadi, thank you for coming to Just Curious and sharing this example and all of your perspectives.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Cool.